Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode here on The Learning Droid. In this episode it's a simple little burn for a friend by request. As you can see, it's a Thomas the Tank Engine one. It's a little room door sign again. Again, it's cartoony, it's the style I've gotten used to, it's not pushing myself. I did want to do a little bit of a practice with a different kind of colouring product, but that will be in a different video. So as you can see, Peter Child's machine, I use a combination of heat transfer and pencil drawing as the pattern, and transferred that across with the Weller wood burning patterning tip. And this is the Peter Child's machine with a fine detail point that's been flattened a little bit, and that's for doing the lines and marking. I only used the one kind of tip for this. I find that because I'm doing a lot of practice pieces at the moment, I like to stick with one bit for the whole piece. It pushes me to experiment with how the wire point can be used for different kinds of lines and shading and different kinds of mark. It's a good way of practicing with different points, is just to do a whole project with one rather than using specialist points for specialist things. It gives you a little bit more practice with how the point works, because you're being pushed to use the point for things you wouldn't necessarily always use it for. I thought I'd include a couple of little tips for pyrographers. So this one's being done on obishi wood. Obishi is a fine-grained African wood. It's quite light, quite low temperature burn, so it's a good wood to use for practice. You can also get it quite cheap from modelling shops. With small and delicate designs, you do want to go with wood that has small and delicate grain for the most part, because it does make it easier as you get more confident using heavier grained woods and compensating for the grain. Great thing to do, but early on go for a very smooth, simple wood with very fine grain. That'll make it easier for you to adjust and easier for you to learn the basics before you move on to something more complicated. Again, because obishi is quite a light wood, it's quite soft, you want to go for quite a low temperature burn. You don't want to use a lot of heat, otherwise you'll overburn. However, as you move on to harder woods, so you move on to things like oak and beech, walnut, anything that's a lot denser and harder to burn, you're going to have to up the temperature and move the point slower to get the same effect. I've burnt on beech, and I've burnt on pine and obishi and bass and oak and a couple of other things, and I found that personally for things like door signs and little things, especially for cartoony images and little pieces, going with a light wood like bass or obishi, something that's easy to get hold of, reasonably cheap, reasonably friendly to use, with a small fine grain, is something that's a lot more comfortable to use. I am thinking of doing a lot more advice videos soon, so if there's anything you want to know about, any kind of patterning, any kind of tool maintenance, anything like that, please let me know, and I'll see you again next time.